Hello friends, Christian here with BrickLifeCrisis. This channel is recommended for adult fans of LEGO and teen fans of LEGO. If you are younger than the age of 13, you're welcome to watch, but first, get your parents' permission. Hello friends, Christian here with BrickLifeCrisis, and welcome to a special Wednesday edition of the show. As you probably know, on Mondays and Fridays we release videos every week, typically with LEGO or Mega Construx or some other brick-based toy. However, on Wednesdays from time to time, we will release something a little out of the ordinary. And today, that is a G.I. Joe Retro Series Awe Striker. This was a toy that I had as a kid, and it has been slightly updated and repackaged in a retro style box for today's audience, and I think it's aimed primarily at collectors but at new audiences as well. And this is G.I. Joe. This features this vehicle, which is called the Awe Striker. It's a kind of a 4x4 dune buggy kind of thing with this cannon on the top. It has room enough for two figures to sit inside, as well as some to hang off the sides. It comes with one figure. This is Crankcase, and on the back of the package, you'll see a photo of the unit along with the figure and a file card. Back in the day, in the early to mid 80s and into the 90s and beyond, these figures came with what they called file cards, which gave a little bit of information about each character. This time, however, they're featured in several different languages, so you get far less information on the card, which is understandable, I suppose, if they're trying to sell to international markets, but it's unfortunate because we get a lot less information here. But there it is if you are interested. So this line is, at this point, a Walmart exclusive in theory. However, I picked this up on Amazon, and it cost me a little over $30, $35 maybe. I think the retail was probably about $25 at Walmart when it came out, maybe $30, but I was unable to find one at Walmart or Walmart.com. Walmart.com just had scalper prices, where people are reselling them, and I didn't want to pay the super premium. They were charging $60 or something plus shipping. So I was lucky enough to find this through Amazon, and so without any further ado, let's go ahead and open it up. Alright, so the inner box contains the body of the vehicle, as well as the figure stand, the cannon, and other accessories, a set of wheels, some instructions, and a decal sheet, and our crankcase figure. So this is our decal sheet, and there is a problem in that many of these decals, they're all clear backed, but some of them have white printing, and then there's a white piece of paper that the stickers are on, so it's kind of tough to see them. You can kind of make out some stars here, but it's tough to see, especially if you have older eyes like mine. So just something to be aware of. These are the assembly instructions, and just like in the old days, back in the 80s, they're printed on what looks like blueprint paper, and on the opposite side we have directions on where to put the decals. Again, very similar to what we had back in the 80s, but much smaller. Back in the 80s, these papers were probably at least twice as big, which is unfortunate that they didn't reproduce that size, because, again, for older collectors like myself with eyes that are not as good as they used to be, sometimes it's a little bit tough to read. Couple that with the white back and clear backed white print stickers makes it a little tricky, but this is the end result. It looks pretty good. We have the Awe Striker and the Crankcase figure. Let's go ahead and take a look at the figure first, and then the vehicle. Alright, this is Crankcase. He has a figure stand that includes his name printed on it, which is nice, and that is sculpted with a G.I. Joe logo on it. The figure is not too bad. He has a removable helmet. We take that off. You can see it's got some straps hanging down. It's kind of a nice look. And he has a red, or orangish actually, but it's supposed to be reddish hair and beard. And that's a pretty good sculpt. Come on, focus. You get a little bit better look at his face there. The sculpt on the figure isn't too bad either. Those straps are removable. It looks like he's got a sidearm there. That is not a removable weapon. It's just in there. Unfortunately, he does not include any kind of a weapon that he can actually use, just that sculpted on one. These figures are better articulated than the originals from the 80s, but they are kind of skinny in my opinion, and they're also a little bit taller. These in theory are 3 3/4 inch figures, but this guy's closer to 4 inches tall, so just something to be aware of. The articulation is pretty good. They're articulated at the shoulder, so they can move up and down as well as rotate. They are articulated at the elbow and at the wrist. They can twist. His hand, it looks like, is ready to grip a weapon. You can kind of see that. It's a little tough, but there you go. But again, he does not include one. They also have the ability to bend at the hip and at the knee. And underneath the foot, they have a little peg hole so that the pegs on the stand you can use to stand up the figures. Also, in the vehicle on the running boards, it's a little tough to see down there at the bottom, there is a peg so that figures can stand on the side. Those pegs are smaller than the original 1980s figures pegs are, so they are not quite compatible. So the figure can twist at the waist, and as I say, he can bend at the knee and a little bit at the ankle, so you can get some good posability there. Again, the wrist, the elbow, bend and twist, and the arm, of course, can rotate and splay outward. The neck can turn from side to side and up and down just a bit. So articulation is pretty good. So here's a look at the figure without the suspenders or backpack straps. And something kind of interesting, this is my first ever G.I. Joe figure in the modern sense. This guy is, I think, a reproduction of the 25th anniversary edition of the figure, so this is not truly a retro figure. But instead of being a rubber band or a loop figure where it attaches at the waist, this guy turns not at the waist but at the chest, which is interesting. It looks a little weird when you do that. He has the ability to bend up and down just slightly, and he can twist. It works for posability, but it can be a little bit awkward depending on how you pose him. The arms are a little bit strange as well, because rather than swiveling like the old figures did halfway down the arm, they swivel up here at the shoulder, and then at the wrist and at the elbow. So it's just a little different than the old figures were. It works, it's okay, but a little different. So that is Crankcase. And there we have his suspenders or backpack straps, whatever you want to call those, and his helmet. And there's a better look at the figure stand with his name printed. And again, we have the G.I. Joe logo there with a peg on each side. And this is the Striker. It's a pretty good looking vehicle. I'm a little confused as to why they released this instead of the Vamp initially. The Vamp is a much more iconic G.I. Joe vehicle, but this is a pretty good second choice, I suppose. So basically, anything that you see that looks like a decorated element, unfortunately, is a decal or a sticker. And some of them are really small and difficult to put in. And as I mentioned, a lot of these you see white lettering. The background, they're clear stickers, but the white lettering on the white card made it very difficult to see. But they do add a lot of detail. So you got the watch head there, G.I. Joe, which I almost left off, but for the sake of nostalgia, I went ahead and put it on. Got the flags, serial numbers, stars. Up here we've got grease type, United States, oil, all kinds of little details. Up on the weapon, you've got some instructions. On the back, you've got some tail lights. You've got another star, danger, exhaust, all kinds of little warnings. Down here you have a toolkit and an aid kit. Incidentally, if you want to, you can take off the back portion so that you could maybe do some maintenance on the motor. And actually, you can even take the motor completely out if you wanted to. And it just sits on a little peg, crosshatch peg. And it goes, that hole just goes right on top of that. So that's kind of interesting. You have the ability to have some added play value there if you want. The weapon is movable. You can rotate it and elevate, lower. So that's kind of a nice thing for play value. And then down here is the targeting sight for that. And I remember as a kid, this hose was very difficult to put on, and so we just left ours off. We never had it, and then we pretended that this thing was another weapon, like a little machine gun or a laser or something like that. But I think it's actually supposed to be a targeting sight for the main weapon up here. There's some nice detail. The wheels are pretty good. The seats, I believe, are a little bit different. I think they are a little bit further recessed to make room for the larger, newer scale figures. They still work with the old ones, of course, but they don't fit quite as well. It's a little tough to see from here, but there is some detail on the dashboard. There is a stick shift and a little steering wheel over here. Incidentally, there is some steering capability on the front of the vehicle, so these wheels can turn a little bit, and there is a somewhat of a working suspension, both front and back. So you can imagine this thing just going crazy over some rough terrain. And of course the figure does fit inside so that he can drive the thing, and his hands can grip the steering wheel. It's a little bit of a trick to get him in there because, as I said, he is slightly oversized from the original figures, but you can get him in there okay. So I don't honestly remember Crankcase as a kid. I do remember this vehicle. I don't know if maybe the vehicle didn't come with the figure, or if I just have forgotten the figure, but this figure is not bad. The vehicle is very similar to what I recall. I think the weapon might be slightly different in its construction. I mean, functionally and cosmetically, it's about the same. And again, I think the seats are a little bit different. Unfortunately, I don't have an original to do a side-by-side comparison, but this is a pretty good reproduction of the original. I think the original vehicle probably came out about 1985 or 86 maybe. I should probably do some research and look that up before I say that, but that's my guess. This, of course, came out in 2019, I believe, or 2020. So in any event, it is available through resellers online. If you're lucky, you might find it on Amazon like I did for a little less than $40. So anyway, let me know what you think about this. I know a lot of people that are really big on G.I. Joe aren't necessarily a fan of this retro line because it's not really retro. They're using 25th anniversary figures on retro packaging, so it's not quite what they were looking for. I think they wanted reproductions of the original figures rather than the 25th anniversary. But for me, who is a casual collector, just because they're currently available, I'm perfectly fine with this. It has the nostalgic value for me, and it's kind of fun. I don't know that I'll get into a whole lot more of this, but if I do, you will see it here on a special Wednesday video. Anyway, this has been Christian with BrickLifeCrisis. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please let me know in the comments below. If you aren't interested in seeing anything other than Lego or Mega Constructs, that's fine. Don't watch on Wednesdays, but Wednesdays are when I will do these special videos from time to time, not every week. But anyway, that's about it for now. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, remember, only G.I. Joe is G.I. Joe.